Here's a quick review of the Aquastar 63. This is one of the earliest dive watches made that was rated to 200 meters and, most interestingly, had an internal bezel. And that's what we'll discuss first. The internal bezel is geared and it has a very nice feel to it, and when I rotate it, you'll actually hear it. It's bilateral. Like opening a safe. It has a really nice geared feel to it. Very nice to use. Unfortunately, not that much thought was put into the design. It's all well and good that the bezel works when the crown is inside. That's fine. Presumably in the 60s, if you were using this as a proper dive watch and you needed to measure decompression time or something like that, you would be setting your timer this way. The problem is if you're above water and you need to set the time and you pull the crown out, mind you, this isn't a quick set date or anything, so you'd be spinning and spinning around. The thing is, the bezel is still coupled. So when you're adjusting the time, you have to deal with the rotating bezel anyway. And it makes setting time to the accurate minute very annoying. I'm not the most mechanically inclined person, so I don't know why exactly this design was made, but I do know very few internal bezel watches have this kind of design. It's just really annoying. You can get used to it by using the 5-minute markers as a reference point, but it really is shockingly poorly thought out compared to the rest of the watch design. But anyway, you close it and you can continue rotating it. And as I said, this is a watch from the 60s. It was meant to be a proper dive watch, and this one has obviously taken its licks over the decades. Looking online, based on a number of samples I've seen, apparently this was highly polished. Hard for me to believe, but apparently there are a number of models. I mean, it's difficult when you see dealers selling it because more likely than not they just over-polished it. But I've seen some seemingly supposedly one-owner watches that had polished cases, so it's a bit odd for a dive watch at the time period, but it is what it is. The movement is an Adolf Schild 1701, which is what this number means above the serial number. And I've never had a chance to open the case back because you need some sort of star-shaped tool to open the case back, which I don't have. It's interestingly enough, this was one of the earlier proper dive watches, scuba diving watches. It's remarkably small. As far as its height, a big component of it is this huge dome, but it's about 11 millimeters high, which is really amusing when you think of contemporary dive watches and just how enormous they are, whereas this one is just nothing short of petite. I'm not certain if this crown is original. A lot of the crowns I see have a signed Aquastar print in it, and this one doesn't, so I don't know, but it certainly functions fine. Incidentally, I have another Aquastar, the Aquastar Benthos, which I featured in another video. But the reason I bought this watch had nothing to do with the brand. Around the time I learned about this, I was just getting into military watches, and I really was enchanted with the Mark 11, the IWC JLC Mark 11, and I really loved the handset. And lo and behold, I discovered that this lowly Aquastar 63 shared a very similar handset, and that's what motivated me to buy it. I got it on eBay for very little money. And I had it in storage for a while, and just recently I decided to take it out and start wearing it. And it's a really nice little watch. Another interesting thing is the dial. It's really low contrast, so it's another element that confuses me in trying to imagine how a scuba diver would be using this in the 60s underwater. It's, as you can see, the numbers on the bezel are not the easiest to read, so I can't imagine this would be that easy to read underwater, but that's just the way it is. I don't think they were manufactured that long, so perhaps that's an element to it. The dial has started to fade a little bit of deterioration without going into auction house beautification terms, but I think it's aged pretty well, all things considered. I don't think there's been any water ingress in there, and the lume even works just a little bit. The tritium paint on this, and nowhere it goes. I was Googling it recently, and I couldn't believe Hodinkee apparently sold this with a little thermometer attached for $1,700, which I don't have any words. Unless things have really changed, I don't think this watch is really worth more than a few hundred US. But I guess some are better at getting money than others. But regardless, that's about it for this video. And as usual, thanks for watching.